What is good, everyone? This is your host, Deanna Radulescu with Label Free Podcast. To live your best life, you must live label free. As always, bringing you incredible guests from all over the world. So sit back, relax, and tune in. My next guest coaches people who feel stressed and stuck in a job they don't like toward the kind of work that will bring them joy, meaning, and fulfillment. He is a life, purpose, and profession coach. Please welcome Matias Bichara. Did I say
Thanks so much for having me. Yes, you said it correctly. Matias Bichara. You got
All right, good.
it. I
Guys,
know
I
a
had
lot
to
of
say
people
it.
struggle to say, but you got it right. I appreciate that.
I had to do it a couple times, but we got it. So I love what you do. You're the reason why you're the type of guest is the reason why I created the show and why we are here today. So I kind of want to get into the reason you actually you're highly educated and have several diplomas, right?
Yes, that's
And
correct.
that you
Yes.
went into one profession and just weren't feeling fulfilled. So can you kind of tell us a little bit of background on what you went to school for and the profession that you got in?
Yeah, absolutely. Sure. First of all, thanks so much for having me. It's really an honor to be here as one of your guests. I've learned so much from everything you teach, from all the guests that you have. So it's really an honor. But yes, so I have a bachelor's in psychology. I've always liked interacting with people. I'm really intrigued by what motivates people and why we act the way we do. But after obtaining my bachelor's, I've always thought that I wanted to be a lawyer. So I went to law school, went through the whole process. And soon after that, I realized that it's not what I had expected it would be. I thought I would be helping people most of the time, but most of my clients were basically legal briefs and documents, and I wasn't interacting one-on-one with people. So I found myself at this job. I was working for an immigration law firm, and I realized I just wasn't happy. I felt that I was stressed. I was overworked. I found that the legal profession is very adversarial. You
Yeah.
know, if in order for you to win, someone else has to lose. So it makes a very competitive culture. So I found myself that I I wasn't satisfied. I found it difficult to fall asleep at night because I took work with me. In the morning, I dreaded going to work. So I realized that I needed to do something. Despite all the sacrifices I had made to obtain my law degree and my license, I realized that I had to do what was right for me and break away from that. I took some time off from work, and that's when it really hit me how stressed I had been and how dissatisfied I was. So I set on this journey to find out what really made me happy, what really moved me, find my purpose, so to speak. I wanted to be happy, but also I wanted to be fulfilled. So yes, went on this path. Contracted career coaches. I read a lot of books, did a lot of self-searching until I realized that the answer was always in front of me. I had
Yeah.
done coaching in the past, but never life coaching. And ever
Different
since I
animal.
started, yeah, ever since I started doing it, I'm not looking back. I am very happy. I feel like I'm making a difference in people's life, and they're very happy, and so that really energizes me.
You invested a lot of time into your education to find that were not, you're in something that you were not happy with and not feeling fulfilled. That's a
Mhm.
pretty hard pill to swallow because that's going to law school and investing the time and the money is quite a bit. That's an investment.
Yeah, no, it definitely was. But I'm in a fortunate situation. I did get a full ride to law school, so
Awesome.
so that made it a little bit easier. But nonetheless, once you obtain something, regardless of money was an element to it, but regardless of like all the hard work I had done, all the nights I stayed up, all the commitments I had to not commitment, but fun engagements I had to say no to. It was a sacrifice nonetheless. So yeah, it was a difficult decision to make,
Yeah.
especially I realized there were a lot of outside influences kind of playing a role in my decision. My family was very proud that I was a lawyer. My mom is so happy anytime she gets to tell anyone, "Oh, my son is a lawyer. He makes me so proud."
Yeah.
My peers as well. You know, I felt like everyone was sort of pushing me in that direction. But when I looked to the side and I looked inwardly, I realized that's not what made me happy. And so maybe I should have taken action before, but regardless of how much time and energy I had spent, I still think that it was worth it, because there's no point in continuing to do something wrong just because you've spent a lot of time, money, and energy in it.
Yeah, well, I totally agree. I think you have to try something to really, if that's where your life leads you, there is a reason and a purpose for you to go down that path. And, I think it ultimately led you to your true purpose, and that is to help people. And I think that you're able to coach people when they at a point where you are at, to help them find that the light at the end of the tunnel, right? Because when you are doing something that is really not speaking to your heart or to your soul, it is hard to really, I would have a hard time sleeping. I've been there, so I know exactly what it's like, and it's not a fun experience. And when you can wake up every day and be happy about what you're doing, you are so much more effective in your life. And, just the littlest things bring you so much more joy, right? Aside from like that big paycheck, I'm sure you want to get to that big paycheck with your clients, but that's going to be a much more rewarding feeling than doing something that makes you unhappy.
Yeah, it definitely is. I definitely feel like that. And I see the difference in people's lives, and that really could energize him more than the paycheck that I had as a lawyer. Money can be superficial, and we're often guided by all these outside influences that we think, oh, you have money, you have a good title, you're quote unquote successful, but is that really why we're here?
Yes.
So we have a nice diploma and nice recognitions from other people, or are we really here to make a difference? I believe there's two elements to it. One is happiness, like we've been talking about, but fulfillment. And I didn't have that same sense of fulfillment that I do now when I see the faces of my client when they have that, aha, I figured it out. This is what I've always wanted to do. And finally, just saying it out loud, I feel like gives people the courage to take the steps to do it. A lot of my clients, because what I do sometimes is, a big part of it is finding a purpose. And another aspect is analyzing your current situation and seeing if there's some elements that can be changed about it. And so I often, when clients are going through this process, of when you start your career, there's a lot of difficult things you have to do. And so I often get to the point where I'm like, okay, so what do you think you want to do? Do you think you're willing to continue to put in the work for 2, 3, 4 years until you're successful? And sometimes people say, yes, I believe so. And I'm like, okay, if that's the way you want to go, it's okay. We'll continue to work that. But let's, hypothetically speaking, let me suggest something else.
Yeah.
And you see the transition in their eyes, and they're like, okay, I want it. And I've heard this before. I thought this is what I like. I told myself this is what I wanted because I am tired, and it's not difficult, but it can be scary to break away from what you're doing on a daily basis. And so once they get in that track, and you see it in their eyes, the joy of the idea of being happy, being fulfilled, that's when we really start to make a difference.
Yeah. I have a quick question. I'm just going to kind of backtrack a little bit. So when you decided to leave law and become a life coach, how did your parents feel about that?
Oh, you should have my mother on this podcast. I experienced a lot of resistance from them. And I first listened, my parents said, at first, any career is difficult. Right now, you may not be happy because you don't have the experience, you haven't put in the work or the years, and you're just starting out, and any career is difficult. Give yourself time, and then you'll see if that's what you like. But I continued to question myself, and I was like, am I not happy now, or am I not going to be happy regardless of what happens with my career? So I had to be very honest with myself, because I listened to my family quite a bit. I listened to my mother a lot, and she's the one that said, she's a doctor, she's a professional, and And so you can imagine her
Yeah.
definition of success, and also first generation immigrant.
Yeah.
And so her definition of success, you have to be a lawyer, a doctor, or an engineer, or everything else. You know, she doesn't say it, but in her head, I almost feel like you're a failure if you're not those old school stereotypical professions.
But that's also the label, right? You know,
Exactly.
that expectation of what society wants you to be, and in your case your family and your mother, that's a label that they hang their hat and their and a value on. And so
Exactly.
now that you've been into your coaching profession and helping people become finding their purpose, how do they feel about that now?
Better. She sees that it was a work in progress. When I first left it, my mom was like, "What are you doing? You work so hard for this," and she said, "This is what you've always wanted to do."
Yeah.
And I said, "Yes, that's what I thought I wanted, but I'm seeing it. I'm not abandoning the profession halfway through or
Yeah.
before graduating. I started, I'm doing it, and now I realize that's not really working for me, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah,
Well, you know, good for you. Congratulations on following
thank you.
your heart, because I think
Hmm.
that's important. And you always have those credentials, right? You earned them. Those aren't going away. So you still have the law degree, and you still
Hmm.
have your bachelor's in psychology, which I would think the psychology kind of gives you a little bit of an edge being a coach, because it makes you understand people's behavior a lot more.
Yeah, it really does. And even the law degree, surprisingly, for many different, I mean, law helps you critical thinking,
Sure.
problem solving. It helps me in a lot more ways than I had thought. But I think it's a good combination because being a profession, I can relate with people and say, hey, I have been in a competitive profession and understand what you're going through, the sacrifices that you have made. And so I can speak from experience and encourage people to challenge themselves to see if that's what they want or not, because I'm speaking from experience and I did it myself.
Yeah, no, and that's very important because I think it allows people to connect with you more, and you're relatable. So let's talk about your process and like who your ideal client is. I love coaches. I talk to all different types of coaches, and every single one is different. I myself
Hmm.
am a licensed, I'm a certified life coach. So I've gone through the training, and I never pursued it, but it did help me in my own life personally, the way I communicated, the way I dealt with people and handled my relationships, and it did allow me to like kind of lift me up in life, so to speak.
Hmm.
So what does the process look like if somebody comes to you? They say, hey, Matias, I heard you on Label Free Podcast. I'm interested in working with you. So what does that look like for them?
Yeah, absolutely. So we take a lot of time to it's a total of 8 week process,
Okay.
where the first half we really look as to what's going on right now. Before we jump into where you want to go next, let's analyze what's going on in your life. What are your values? What are your talents? What are your goals in life? And we
Yeah.
see if the current job aligns with what you want to do, and why it does or why it may not do that. And then like we look at the things that are working, the things that you did like about your job, and then we do sort of an analysis to understand really what's going on right now. Later on, we start seeing the talents and the things that people are good at, and then because a big part of it is also what one thing is what you like, but also something that you could get paid for, because this
Sure.
is their career that they want to do. So a lot of the things that we do, we look at ikigai. I don't know if you're familiar with the term, but it's the idea. It's a Japanese concept that basically it's kind of like our purpose.
Yeah.
Iki, I believe it means life, and Gai means something of value. So, what's the value in your life? What do you stand for? So,
Yeah.
it's this four different categories: your passion, your profession, your vocation, and your mission. So, basically, what you love is your passion. What you're good at is your profession. What you can get paid for is your vocation, and what the world needs is your mission. So, if we
Yeah.
can find something that meets all those four categories, then we have found your ikigai. And then we move on from there to, one thing is finding your purpose.
Yeah.
Another thing is doing the steps necessary for you to obtain that purpose. You may need to hone in your skills or take some courses, or there may be some learning process in order for you to be ready to jump on into the career of your dreams.
I love it. What is your, or can you, well, I guess ideal client or success story, which one would you like to share?
That's a great question. I guess, I mean, either one is fine, but maybe ideal client. I work mostly with young professionals because I can relate more with them. But really, my ideal client is someone who doesn't like their job. You know, maybe they like their career, but they don't like their current employment. Well, okay, I can help you. Maybe you need to go to a different department or ask for a raise or talk to your boss and get different job duties. Or you need to change careers all completely. So I'm able to, help people with every area of their life.
Yeah.
And then success story. I mean, I have a lot
you're
of
a success story yourself. So
okay, there we
you're
go.
already one, but
Perfect.
no, tell me that you've worked with, because I feel like young professionals just starting out in their career and they're not unhappy, but yet they've invested all this time. There's going to be a lot of resistance within them, psychologically and just, kind of logically, like, oh my gosh, I'm not happy, but I've put all my time into becoming this person. And I find myself not wanting to be here. So I guess if you have someone that you've worked with that is similar to you, that you allowed them to find their purpose and be that ikigai or whatever you said.
Yeah.
Do you have someone you could not the person, but a story that you could share?
Yes. And you say similar to me. So it's easier for me to talk about this person because I can relate with her so well. Yeah. She worked for an insurance agency, and she liked the idea of choosing her own hours and being almost like her boss. And so she liked that flexibility. But the more we talked to her, she had a very particular story where she had gone to grief. And so although she was telling me that she liked the flexibility or the idea of being an entrepreneur, this story of grief kept coming up, and she said, eventually I would like to write a book. I would like to tell my story. I want to connect with people. And so I recommended her that she should be a life coach as well, to pass on her message, because she had all the skills necessary. She wanted to help people. She was a good communicator, and she liked the entrepreneurship side of it. And so that's the direction that she went in, and she's very happy that she did it. She was one of those people that that was afraid of saying what she really wanted to do. Yeah. She was afraid to be label free, to break from the norm. But luckily she was yeah.
So, on that note, where can people find you, connect with you, and learn more if they want to work with you?
Yeah, absolutely. My website is my name, matiasbichara.com, and I am offering your listeners a 30-minute consultation. Sometimes it's good just to talk to somebody, maybe you need a little self-reflection to push you in the same direction that you're going. So if you're looking for a little bit of motivation, or if you're questioning yourself and have the idea of going to a different career, I can help you with that. I'm also on Instagram, coach.matiasb, so people can find me there as well.
Excellent. You guys, I'm going to put those links in the show notes. So if you connected with Matias's message today, don't hesitate to go reach out. If anything, go follow his Instagram, and maybe that will encourage you to, if you're questioning where you are in life, to take him up on his 30-minute call consultation. Matias, this is the part of the show where I like to ask for last words of wisdom or advice. What would you like to leave with us today?
Yeah, okay, absolutely. So a concept that I've been really working with my clients is a Stoic principle called Memento Moris. And it means remember that you will die. And I know that may sound a little bit morbid, but when people incorporate the idea that when people come to terms with their own mortality, but they understand that they're not going to be here forever, that they should make every day count, then good things start to happen. We don't take life for granted. And so I encourage everybody to look at your life, remember that you will die, and try to make the best of it. Live a full life. And I know that at the beginning things can be scary to make the transition. So get a mentor, get someone that can help you, whether it's me or anyone else, someone that you trust. Get help so you don't have to take the actions by yourself. I know that change can be scary, but you don't have to do it alone.
Boom! Mic drop. That was awesome. Yes,
so
live every day label free, and like we are not promised tomorrow. Totally agree with that mentality. Those are great words of wisdom. Matias, thank you for joining us today and sharing your story and doing the work that you do. Because of people like you, you're helping make the world a better place.
Thanks so much. Likewise, Deanna, thank you for having me. You're also making the world a better place. So thank you for the time, and thank you for your listeners for listening to me. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. You guys, this is your host, Deanna Radulescu with Label Free Podcast. To live your best life, you must live label free. As always, don't forget to subscribe, follow, rate, review, comment, share, all those good things. And I'll be back soon with more dynamic guests.